So hey guys, Chris Harden, Lab Coat Agent Moderator here today with Ken Updegrave, and he's going to teach us how to work with some of the most affluent clients possible. Ken, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hey, good afternoon, Chris. I'm Ken Updegrave, and I'm with Mutual of Omaha Mortgage, and I work in a division that works specifically with some of the most affluent buyers and sellers in the market today. It's approximately 25 to 30% of the market, depending upon which NAR study you look at. But it's the folks that are in the baby boom generation. They typically have the most accumulated wealth and are doing about 25 to 30% of the transactions that are out there. So if you're not focused in that market, you're really missing an opportunity to connect with folks that are what I call the last-time home buyers. A lot of people are looking for first-time home buyers, but the last-time home buyer market is an opportunity for you to really differentiate yourself and work with a client base that is doing a ton of transactions and a ton of dollar volume as well.
That's the first time I've ever heard anybody say the last-time home buyers. That's a new one. So that's definitely a niche that people aren't into. What got you into that niche?
Yeah, I've been in the mortgage business since about 2005, and in 2010, I had an opportunity to kind of take a different turn and started working with senior buyers and refinancers. And in 2008, FHA made this program available to senior home buyers that are 62 or older. And basically, it allows them to buy any kind of FHA home that meets FHA requirements, which is, single family homes, townhomes, any kind of condos that are FHA approved. And it gives the buyers that are in that market an opportunity to really meet their needs, because they're a little bit different buyer segment than what you're looking at for most of the people that you're working with that aren't in that segment. Most of the time when you're working with folks that are first time, second time, third time home buyers, their goal is to accumulate equity. And the people that are in my demographic, their concerns aren't necessarily accumulating equity. They're more concerned about liquidity and cash flow planning. And this is an opportunity for them to be able to get the lifestyle that they want and either increase their liquidity or their cash flow, or both of them. So it's a little bit of a different mindset, and takes a little bit of understanding on what these people are looking for, but is really a game changer for the realtors that I work with that understand how to work with this market.
Who's the best candidate for that market? Who would you say is the best candidate for that?
What we typically find is going to be a couple that are in their mid 60s to mid 70s and are looking for the house that they're going to be in for the next 10 to 20 years before they go into some kind of different living arrangement. But they're looking for, how do I get to buy that house that creates a lifestyle that I want and not tie up all my money that I might have accumulated in that particular home for the lifestyle that I want. So a lot of what located in North Carolina, so a lot of what I'm working with are going to be folks from the Northeast that are moving down into the mid-Atlantic and Southeast states, and they're looking to get away from the cold and the winter weather up in the Northeast, and are looking to move to states that have lower tax rates and are more accommodating for the retirement lifestyle that they're looking for.
So this is definitely not for those that just want to make a cash deal and basically are setting on money. This is for people that their home is paid for and they want to get some cash out of it and still be able to live on it. But
yeah, we typically find that a lot of the buyers that we're working with could be cash buyers if they so desired to do that. But what they find when they start looking at this and the opportunity it provides them, as an example that we had talked about earlier, if they're selling a house and they've got $400,000 or $500,000 worth of equity, if instead of buying another replacement house for $400,000 and paying cash for it, they buy that same house and use this program, and they're 65, they're able to basically sock away a couple $100,000 for utilizing in their retirement. And that's really an appealing option for a lot of the customers that we work with. particularly when we talk to them and show them how the appreciation in the property really maintains the equity that they have in the property to begin with.
How does this help the realtor out? Like how would the realtor know, hey, this is a great fit for that type person versus traditional?
Yeah, so I think it's really a matter of asking questions about your clients, and it provides a lot of opportunities for realtors and real estate agents that understand the program, because we run into situations, and I've had this happen with the customers that I'm working with, where they found the house that they really want to move into, and it's a $400,000 house, and the house that they're going to sell is $350,000, but they don't want to have any kind of monthly mortgage payment going into retirement. So they're putting pressure on the realtor to sell the house for $400,000, and it's really not going to sell at $400,000. And if you know how this program works, you can talk to that client and basically have them come to an understanding that they price the house right at $350,000. They go ahead and get it sold and moved, and they're able to accomplish their goals. But in addition to that, they're buying that $350,000 house. It's only going to require them to come to the table with roughly $175,000, or excuse me, they're going to buy that $400,000 house. It's only going to require them to come to the table with $200,000 if they sell it for $350,000, even after closing costs and what they're netting. They're still going to walk away with about $125,000 that they can put into their retirement plan going forward.
So they have to come at it with a 50% down payment?
Yeah, we're roughly looking at 50%, 50 to 60%. Right now, the determining factors for how much they need for down payment are going to be based on their age, the age of the youngest one, if it's a couple, and then where interest rates are. So where current interest rates are, they're maximizing their lack of down payment that they're required to make at the current interest rates.
Okay. How would this work with like a new home? Like how would that benefit like a builder? Like would a builder have a new angle to attract?
Yeah, I mean, from a builder perspective, builders are even more intrigued by the product than realtors are a lot of times, because if a buyer comes and starts talking to a realtor about it, the realtor's got the whole MLS to work with, and they can find a $350,000 house if that's what that client's budget is. But if a builder's building a $400,000 house and that client walks in with $350,000 as what they're going to net from their house, and don't want to have any kind of monthly mortgage payment, they're not going to be a buyer for that particular builder unless the builder understands how they can get them into that house without having to have that monthly mortgage payment. So this is a really attractive opportunity for increasing incremental sales for builders, because they're getting those clients that would be on the fence about buying the house, but really wouldn't get off of the fence because they don't want to have that monthly mortgage payment. The builder can really create a lot of opportunity for themselves and a lot of opportunity for their clients by understanding and offering this, because basically if the client walks in, they're not going to be a buyer, but if the builder can educate them on it, then they're a buyer, and plus they have another $150,000 that they can put into their retirement plan. So the buyers are ecstatic about that in a lot of cases.
So what's the qualifications for that program, and like where, are y'all the only ones that offer it, or everybody offer it? Is it specific to you? Is it,
It's an FHA program. So there are FHA guidelines on it as far as property types. The program is offered by a number of different companies, but because it's such a niche program, it's not offered by a lot of mortgage lenders. They just don't have the bandwidth to really focus on that. And we focus on exclusively this particular program. And so, there's a small amount of companies out there that do this. We are about the second, third, fourth largest, depending upon the month as far as total volume, but we do the most purchase money loans out there because we're really focused on that. We've really developed a strong builder network that we're working with. In fact, we've got one builder that's building in quite a number of different states, that we're doing about 30% of the volume as far as loans on their homes that they're selling, because they've really leveraged this to create some additional opportunities for themselves. And they're selling a lot of homes that are in the $500,000 and $600,000 price point. So it's really advantageous for them too, because what the builder finds out, and this applies to a realtor too, when they go in to work with a new home builder, is that customer that comes in and has 350 and is looking at that $400,000 house, when they realize that they can buy it, they're going to come in and from the builder, they really created a lot of additional profitability, because when they go to the design center, they pick out everything that they could possibly want in it, because they realize that they're getting all those items at about 50 cents on the dollar. So they don't try and skimp when they go to the design center. And that's where the builders really have an opportunity to make profit. So, you might have somebody that comes into a $400,000 base home, and by the time they walk out of the design center, they're at 450. So from a realtor perspective, that adds commission on another $50,000 if they're working with that builder that's buying that new home.
Very cool. What is
back to your original question about what qualifies for it? So at least one of the borrowers has to be age 62 or older. The program's only available to folks that are 62 or older. It's FHA property qualified. And then the home values on this are a little different than standard FHA products. So depending upon what area you're in, your standard FHA products may be limited to somewhere around $300,000. With this particular program, our limit on it is about $726,000 on it. So we basically use that as a starting point. And then if somebody's looking at a $700,000 house, they're basically bringing $350 to the table roughly, and having a $350,000 loan that they're taking out for it.
Is the closing time similar to regular mortgages, or is it faster or shorter?
The closing time on it's going to be similar if you're doing an existing home. With new home construction, there's a kind of a silly little rule, but they won't allow you to do it on an as to be completed basis on the appraisal. So we have to have a CO for that property. So when we're working with a builder, we're communicating to them, we got to have the CO, but we're typically able to close that within about 2 weeks of receiving a CO. And a lot of times when we work with builders, we're talking to them about, hey, you can go ahead and get the CO, have a couple of days worth of punch work done, and then we're going to be ready to close when you're ready to deliver the house to the customer. So it's really not a whole lot of difference. We're typically closing them in about 24 days on purchase transactions. And most of the time we've got everything underwritten on new construction, except for the appraisal once we get there.
Okay, so I mean, you would say it's pretty smooth for the most part then.
It really is. I mean, it's just a matter of keeping everybody on the same page as far as how the appraisal requirements are, particularly in new construction. With existing homes, there's no issue there. It's pretty similar on the close time to a traditional loan.
So what's the cons of this? Because if basically I'm taking a loan out and I'm not making any payments to it, how does that work?
Yeah, so the cons on it are you're going to have a couple of things that are going to be different. If you've done FHA loans, all FHA loans have mortgage insurance on it, and there's typically going to be both upfront mortgage insurance and annual mortgage insurance, and this loan's no different on it because it is FHA backed. The difference in the mortgage insurance on this is, in traditional mortgage insurance for most loans, the only folks that are being protected by that are the lender in case the home values were to go down. But because you've got so much equity in it, the buyer is actually being protected as well. This is a non-recourse loan. So if home values were to crash or not appreciate the way we anticipate it, then those buyers are never going to be responsible for making any additional payments. So if they ever get upside down on the loan, there's never going to be a short sale involved when they have to leave the home, whether it's by death or leaving the home to go to some other type of living arrangement. So that they or their heirs are never going to be responsible for anything more than what they've originally put into the loan when they did it.
So with this type of loan, say both of them pass away, the husband and wife, is the debt due to the kids, or is it just gone?
No, it isn't. Their heirs are. It works just like any other loan. The owners have title to the property. We have a lien against the property. They pass away. The heirs can sell the house, take out any remaining equity after the lien is paid off. If the lien's greater than the home value, basically they can just turn over the deed and the keys and walk away from it without owing any additional funds on it.
Very cool. So, I mean, that's a good fit, especially when you know you got like 15, 20 years set, and, you know, like you might not have that long, you may not have kids, and it's just a great way to pull cash out if you've not really been saving. What's the best way to pitch that to someone as a realtor or a builder? Like, where's that opportunity that people aren't seeing that to pitch that?
I think from a realtor's perspective, your opportunity is when you've got a buyer that you're working with, and they're looking at, I guess, as my grandmother said, their appetite's bigger than their stomach is, and you know, they're looking at things that they really want. And the house values are higher than what they feel comfortable buying, so they're sitting on the fence. And you have an opportunity to have a conversation with them and say, "Listen, you can buy this house and still have some money left over after you bought the house. Is that an appealing option for you to take a look at? And if it is, have them contact us. We can kind of run through the scenario for them, see if it makes sense for them to look at that." You know, it's incredible when we have these conversations with these folks that are in this demographic. Most of them have never heard about it, just like a tremendous number of real estate agents and builders have never heard about how this program can be used, because it's only been around for 11 years in effect. And, you know, not a whole lot of people know about it. So it can be a tremendous opportunity, like you and I were talking about when we started talking about it initially. If the person that wants to be invested in a lot of real estate, this is an opportunity for them to perhaps take the money that they were going to put into a primary residence and put it into cash generating real estate and leverage it as well. So, you know, if they were a $500,000 buyer and only, instead of putting all $500,000 into their property so that they didn't have any kind of monthly obligation to make payments on it, they took 250 of that and invested that in real estate that's leveraged. Basically, that gives them an opportunity to create $1 million portfolio that's generating cash flow for them, in addition to not having the monthly mortgage payment on it. And basically, there's no cash flow requirement on their primary residence. So it's a lot easier for them to qualify on some of the other investment properties as well.
And that's an opportunity for that agent to sell another house too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if somebody's in that position and looking at it and saying, "Well, I can do this, and I got $250,000, but if I put it in a CD, I'm getting 1%." And if the realtor's aggressive about it and has a customer that's willing to think a little bit outside the box, they can probably create some opportunities for that investor to get a better return and be able to leverage that return for a better cash on cash return.
Yeah, it's all about being creative and getting some cash flow. That's what I'm learning. I mean, I don't know a lot, but I'm learning cash flow is a great thing.
Well, and particularly for the customer that we're talking about, cash flow is everything for them. So, you know, having liquidity and having cash flow is the most important thing that these people are looking for at that point in time. The only reason they're cash buyers is for cash flow.
Cool. Is there anything I'm not asking that I should be asking?
I don't know that there is. If we want to share a screen, I can go through kind of a down payment matrix so people get an idea on what those particular buyers are looking at different ages and price points on there.
Definitely. I'm a visual person. Let's see it.
All right. So I'm sharing the screen. Are you seeing that now?
I'm seeing it.
So one of the things that we do, the program is technically called the home equity conversion mortgage, and we just call it the H for P for short. So H for P stands for the home equity conversion mortgage for purchase. So we call it the H for P matrix. And this chart shows a one-time payment of about 50 or 60% of the purchase price and no monthly mortgage payments. So the only thing that the buyers are responsible for going forward is the same thing that they would be responsible for if they were cash buyers. They're going to have to pay their property taxes. They're going to have to pay to keep homeowners insurance on their property. If they're in a HOA, they're going to have to pay their HOA dues and maintenance and upkeep of the property on that. But you can see in here, because of where interest rates are right now, even at 62, looking at this $250,000 buyer, if they're at age 62, they're asking to come to the table with $131,500. So that $131,500 includes all their closing costs and everything in it. So, basically when they come to the table with $131,500, they're coming with just slightly over 50%. But that buyer, if they had $250,000 in cash in hand, they're able to put $120,000 of it into their pocket for utilizing in retirement later on, however they choose to utilize it. For somebody that's age 70, they're bringing less than 50% to it. You can see as you get older, somebody that's 85 years old that's looking to buy a $250,000 house, they could bring $91,250 to the table and not have any kind of monthly mortgage payments going forward, because it's all age based, because it's based on life expectancy in here. So they're buying a $250,000 house and putting down roughly 40% or so on that. For somebody that's age 85, that can be an appealing opportunity if they've got some longevity in their family. But you can see, for somebody that's buying a $500,000 house, if they're buying a $500,000 house and they're 65, they're bringing less than half to the table, including closing costs on that. At 70, they're bringing just under 230,000. So they're basically putting 270,000 in their pocket if they're a cash buyer. And, it creates a tremendous opportunities for the realtors that understand this and the buyers that understand it and are willing to take a look at it and see how it works. And, one of the things that the buyers are always concerned about when we talk to them about it is they're concerned about what happens to my equity in the property. And it really is dependent upon what happens in the real estate market as a whole, because their equity is going to largely be based on how much appreciation they have in the property. But let's say that they're a $500,000 buyer and they're 65 years old and they're bringing, we'll just keep the numbers simple. They're bringing $250 to the table on a $500,000 purchase. If that $500,000 purchase price appreciates by 3% annually, you're creating $15,000 in additional equity in the first year. If that $250,000 loan is, I'm going to keep it simple and say 5%. Right now, the total cost on it is going to be just over 3%. But at 5% on a $250,000 loan, you're adding about $12,500 in interest to the loan balance. So you've actually increased your equity in that property by $2,500 on it just from the 3% appreciation. If you get greater than 3% appreciation, your equity is increasing even faster in that. So really the downside is if they're in a market where they don't have appreciation, they could typically lose some of that equity. But what I tell my buyers that I'm working with when we talk about that is, let's say you put down that $250 in it and you're buying a $500,000 house. How much would that house rent for? It'd probably rent for $2,000 a month or better. So that's going to cost you $24,000 a year if it's a $2,000 a month rental on that. Your cost on it are going to be less whatever your expenses would be. But let's just say it costs you $20,000 a year on it, and you don't get any appreciation on the equity. You're basically 12 years into that, and you've broken even on what you put into it, even if you don't get any appreciation versus rent. So you're kind of taking a bet on if it appreciates, I get the benefit of the appreciation. If it doesn't, my downside is limited to what I put into it initially.
Right. I mean, like we've lived in our house maybe 5-6 years now, and it's appreciated about $85,000. So I'm pretty stoked with that. But new developments keep popping up, and they're in the 4s and the 5s and the 6s, and we just keep rising. So I think right now is a great time, depending where you're at.
I've got a customer that I'm working with right now. He and his wife purchased a house in November of 2018. They paid just over $500,000. I think they paid $510 for it. Because of where interest rates are and because of what's happening in this housing development, we're looking at doing a refinance for him right now. His property is appreciated to $593, and he's going to end up being able, because of the lower interest rates specifically, being able to access about another $70,000 worth of his equity. So it's a no-brainer for somebody like that. You've already gotten into something. You get the appreciation, and it gives you an opportunity to pull even more cash out for retirement.
Right. Well, is there anything else? I mean, like I can't really read that small print, which there's always small print stuff, but what does the small print say there?
It talks about where the interest rate is on it. So this is based on using an adjustable rate, which is at a 2.949% margin or interest rate on that. And it includes all the estimated fees, including your upfront mortgage insurance premium, origination, and all kinds of third-party charges on there. So that number is a net all-in number. You know, we're looking at including all the costs involved to get into it, and you're still less than 50% on it if you're 65 or older.
Okay. Well, very cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing that opportunity with us. Hopefully, you know, the agents out there listening to this will see some opportunity. Some people see opportunity, some people don't, but you know, this is for those that do see opportunity. We wanted to put this out and make it available because I was having a chat with Ken and I wasn't aware of it. That's not the way I thought the plan worked, but you know, he showed me otherwise. So
yeah, I mean when I sponsor real estate continuing education classes, the first question I always ask the agents in the class is, how many of them are working with this particular subset of buyers? And roughly 30% of my classes will usually raise their hand, and I always ask the other 70% of the class, why aren't you focused more on these buyers? Because they're the ones that have the money, and they're the ones that are doing 25 to 30% of the transactions. You're really missing a boat on it if you don't know how to work with those buyers, and this is an even more appealing opportunity for a lot of them.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for your time, Ken. Appreciate you sharing the info with us. And if anybody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
So the best way to get a hold of me is probably just call me on my mobile number, which is 919-412-8389. You can also text me. If you're interested, we have about a 28-page electronic H4P buyer's guide that you could share with your customers on there. And if you wanted to, you could email me and I'd be happy to get an electronic copy of that to you. My email address is ken@kenupdegrave.com, and I'll spell that because it's not an easy last name. It's KEN@KEN, U as in umbrella, P as in Paul, D as in David, E as in elephant, G as in girl, R as in Robert, A as in apple, V as in Victor, E as in elephant.com, kenupdegrave.com.
Thanks, Ken. Y'all have a great weekend.
Thank you.